Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back to News Dose, and I guess it's one of those weeks where Team Xbox is just kinda making the rounds. They do tend to do this every once in a while, but Phil Spencer in an interview with the Wall Street Journal had a lot to say, much of which was very, very interesting. He did touch up on things like Xbox Game Pass and what type of success it's having. He also talked about exclusivity for Call of Duty and then also for Bethesda games out. That's actually really interesting stuff there. And he also talked about the possibility of raising prices. Yeah, that one there is probably the one that you don't want to hear about, but Xbox might be the next domino to fall in the looming price wars. So a lot to go over with all of that. And then also the PlayStation 5 hit a major milestone, but also with a little bit of a caveat. So yeah, lots to go over today, but as always, if you find yourself enjoying the video and if you're new to the channel, do consider hitting those buttons below. Hit that like, kick that subscribe, and yes, whack that bell as hard as you possibly can. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with yet another Day 1 Xbox Game Pass game that is set to release this holiday. I mean, if things weren't already good enough with things like Plague Tale Requiem and Persona 5 Royal, well, now you also have Somerville, as it just got a release date for November 15th. And I definitely think that this one is worth watching out for. This could be a big surprise hit, really for a couple of different reasons. One, I think the premise is attractively mysterious and intriguing. It is a narrative-driven sci-fi game where you wake in a catastrophe, there's alien visitors, and you have to quote-unquote make your family whole again. But you do venture out across some gorgeous and just quite frankly ominous environments. The thing about all this, though, is that it might remind you of another indie darling, one of the most praised independent games of all time, being Inside. And there's actually a good reason for this. Somerville is coming from the Limbo and Inside co-creator Dino Petit, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, and his new studio. So that's why it might seem a little similar to those games where it just bleeds atmosphere, you explore a mysterious world, and it has that good environmental storytelling. So definitely if you like those games, or if you just like what you're seeing here, do keep an eye on Somerville. And again, it does release on November 15th for PC, Xbox, and yes, it launches directly into Xbox Game Pass. Just gotta love it. Now, we also got a pretty significant update from BioWare on the next Dragon Age game, being Dreadwolf, as they just announced that it's reached its alpha milestone. Now, obviously, this franchise has a massive following, and everybody just wants to kind of see exactly how this game is shaping up. I mean, BioWare has been one of the better RPG studios historically. I know some of their recent games have been flawed, to say the least, but everybody's hoping that they get back on track with the return to Dragon Age, and then also, of course, the next Mass Effect. And while they're still not quite ready to show these games just yet, they do have this developer log where they keep us, the community, updated, and they did let us know that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is now playable from beginning to end as a complete, cohesive experience. They then continued on to say this: now what? Of course, the game is not finished by any means, but alpha is one of the most important game development milestones for a number of reasons. First and foremost, we can now turn our sights towards bringing the visual fidelity to its final form and iterating on gameplay features. The big question now is, where do we focus our efforts? To answer that, we solicit feedback from a number of sources, including our community council members, who each have unique perspectives and experiences, our quality verification team, and extensive internal playtesting. Gathering feedback from multiple sources gives us the greatest insight on where we need to spend more time improving the experience. Additionally, we can now evaluate the game's pacing, how relationships evolve over time, and the player's progression, as well as narrative cohesion. Essentially, how the story comes together. We can take the story we've written and see if we're expressing it well through the characters, dialogue, cinematics, and ultimately the player's journey. Now that we have the ability to do a complete playthrough, we can iterate and polish on the things that matters most to our fans. So yeah, there you have it for you Dragon Age fans out there. Dreadwolf is progressing very well, and I do like what I'm hearing here. They do very specifically mention its story, its characters, and its pacing, which to me has always been some of the things that makes BioWare games so special. So I do like that they're emphasizing those specific aspects. But I think that this also kind of lines up with some of the things that we've heard from Jeff Grubb. He did actually say before that Dragon Age 4 is progressing well and that it has a chance, just a potential chance, of releasing in 2023. So now that we know that the game is playable start to finish, that does become just a little bit more likely. Now, right now, I personally guess late 2023 at the earliest, or possibly early 2024. Either way, though, I do suspect that we're probably going to start to hear much more about this game publicly next year. So definitely fun times ahead for those who've been waiting for the next Dragon Age game. Alright, so let's just go and get into the Xbox stuff because there's a lot, and I mean a lot to digest here. Xbox Phil Spencer, in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, had a lot to say, and he was being very forthcoming and open about some different things. This is one of the reasons that I've always really appreciated him, as he does try to communicate with fans. But there are a few key points here that I want to kind of zero in on, and that's with Xbox Game Pass, the possibility of a price increase, and then exclusivity. Now, let's just go and start here with the exclusivity first, because I haven't really seen a lot of people talk about this, but he does seemingly confirm two separate things here. We can actually take a look at this tweet by Idle Sloth, which, by the way, great follow, go check them out. But it says, on Call of Duty, Spencer says Call of Duty is already cross-console, and so it makes sense to ship support across the industry. He was then asked, so why not with the next Elder Scrolls? Why will that be exclusive? In which he responded, each platform has exclusives. Nintendo has Zelda and Mario. So this tells you two things. One, Call of Duty will indeed be multi-platform even after the Activision Blizzard buyout, as they've reiterated time and time again. He even says in this very interview, they look at Call of Duty as another Minecraft situation, and that they want to expand the IP to even more places, like Nintendo as an example. Now that's great news for Nintendo and everything, but I don't really think that this is necessarily earth-shattering news. We've heard this stuff before. But it's just more confirmation on what they plan to do with Call of Duty. And I think that that's very important for fans to know, because there's a lot of misinformation that goes around. Yes, technically, there is a contract in place for Call of Duty, and after that contract ends, they could technically take it off other platforms like PlayStation. But from the sounds of it, that's not what they intend to do. They are specifically comparing Call of Duty to Minecraft, which probably operates under similar contracts. They do not have to release new Minecraft games like Minecraft Legends or Minecraft Dungeons on other platforms, but they choose to because it's best for that IP, and it seems that they want to do the same thing with the Call of Duty franchise. It's pretty much what I've been saying all along. I believe that this buyout is more for Xbox Game Pass than it is about exclusivity. They're also saying that a big part of this buyout is for mobile games, and I believe that as well, as we're already hearing things about a possible new Microsoft mobile storefront, and they did just announce a new Age of Empires mobile game. All in all, though, with them essentially confirming that Call of Duty will be treated like Minecraft, this is great for the Activision Blizzard buyout and just getting that through regulations. We know that that whole saga is a mess, but this should be a good bullet point for them to get that through regulations. The other part about this, though, is that if he was quoted correctly here, it does appear that he confirmed that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be exclusive to Xbox. Now, the thing about this is that when they first acquired Bethesda, he did say that that acquisition was specifically for exclusivity, and he was very upfront about that. But there's still been some lingering questions among the community, and that's why this confirmation here is interesting. I'd say that if anything, fans should probably go in expecting that the Elder Scrolls 6 and games like the next Fallout will be Xbox exclusives, just like Starfield and Redfall already are. Completely new Bethesda games will be more often than not on Xbox and PC only. That's what I think fans should probably go in expecting, and that's pretty much, once again, essentially confirmed here by Phil Spencer. One of the big stories that came from this interview, though, that everybody seems to be talking about is about price increases. It is starting to become more evident as we get further into this generation that prices for games are going up. Of course, PlayStation does it, EA does it, Take-Two does it, etc., etc. And while Xbox has held firm up to this point, and they've been highly praised for that, it is starting to sound like that they could be the next domino to fall, as Phil Spencer did suggest prices could increase sometime in the future, just not necessarily right now currently. Let's just go and take a look at this quote, though. He says, I do think at some point we'll have to raise the prices on certain things, but going into the holiday, we thought it was important to maintain the prices. We've held prices on our console, we've held prices on games, and our subscription. I don't think we'll be able to do that forever. I do think at some point we'll have to raise some prices on certain things. So, I mean, I guess the good news here is that they're not going to raise the prices this holiday. That's a little bit of a silver lining, but it does sound like that they could change that down the line, maybe sometime in 2023. The question then becomes, what's going to increase in price? Will it be games? Will it be subscriptions? Or will it be their consoles? I myself lean on the idea that it will more than likely be for their games, and I think that will become evident with Starfield. I think that there's a very good chance that Starfield will be their first official $70 game, which aligns with what we're kind of seeing with most AAA publishers by this point. There are still a few publishers that haven't jumped onto those $70 games yet. I believe Capcom still sticks with $60. I might need to recheck that. But if Microsoft makes that shift, I think that will be the final domino, and after that, most publishers will kind of follow suit. I think over the next 2 years, most AAA games will be $70. I know we as gamers don't necessarily like it, but that does seem to be the direction that the industry is currently taking, and for that matter, the world is taking right now. Prices seemingly are just increasing everywhere. Now, I do hope that Microsoft manages to keep their consoles and subscriptions at the same price. If anything, $70 games, I mean, that will make Xbox Game Pass look even better than what it already does. But currently, it's really hard to tell exactly what will happen. I would not rule anything out as of this moment. I mean, PlayStation just increased the price of their console. I mean, who would have thought something like that was going to happen? But that's kind of the landscape that we're currently finding ourselves in. Let me know what you all think about all of this, though. Do you think that they're going to increase the prices of more than just their games or not? Let me know in the comments below. Now, the last key part that we're going to discuss is about Xbox Game Pass. Now, we did touch up on this yesterday, but Phil Spencer did say that Xbox Game Pass is already, yes, already profitable as it currently stands today. I mean, this is kind of amusing because there's always really been that divide in the community in does Game Pass actually make money? Is it sustainable? Yada, yada, yada. But there you go. This really is just yet another one of those bullet points in the ongoing ways to try and tear down Xbox Game Pass. It's profitable already, so no reason to quote-unquote worry about the future of Xbox Game Pass. However, he did note that Xbox Game Pass makes up about 10 to 15% of Xbox's content and services revenue. And interestingly, he did say that he expects it to pretty much stabilize right there. In other words, he believes that as Xbox continues to grow, Game Pass will remain consistent in that 10 to 15% range, which that is healthy for other options when it comes to Xbox gaming. That means Xbox Game Pass is not expected to just completely dominate other avenues for developers and consumers. He did, however, say that PC Game Pass growth has been incredible with a 159% increase year over year. Again, we kind of talked about that yesterday, but yeah, even though Xbox Game Pass on console growth is slowing down a little bit or stabilizing, in other words, they are having success there, and especially with the addition of PC Game Pass. That multi-dimensional Xbox ecosystem, yeah, it's continuing to prove to be a very, very smart thing on their part. Now, the PS5 also just surpassed a major milestone over in Japan as it just eclipsed 2 million consoles sold in that region. But as the Video Game Chronicle points out, there is a caveat here because this is actually the slowest their modern consoles have sold in Japan up to this point. It did take the PlayStation 5 101 weeks to reach 2 million units sold, while the PS4 did the same in 90 weeks, and the PS3 in 73 weeks. So we are seeing a little bit of a backwards trend here for PlayStation in Japan, but I think when you look at the full picture, I don't really find this to be overly surprising. Yes, Sony has faced some criticism in Japan this generation, as some gamers don't feel that they target them as much as they used to. They shut down Sony Japan, and they changed the confirm button to X instead of circle. So there's been some issues and complaints like that, but really the bigger problem here simply comes down to stock supply. When the PlayStation 5 is available, well, it sells. But how much stock are you actually going to get? Sony so far this generation has targeted other countries a little more, such as the United States, where Xbox is really competitive. I think with that, they feel a little less urgency to flood the market in Japan and instead are focusing on more competitive markets. So I think considering that, the PlayStation 5 selling slightly slower than the PlayStation 4, I think is to be expected here. The other big thing, though, is that Japan does gravitate more towards handhelds. And there's a handheld over there that's certainly very much dominating, and that is the Nintendo Switch. I mean, the Switch has already sold like 25 plus million units in Japan alone, which is absolutely crazy. And they also dominate the software charts by far. So again, PlayStation not necessarily being as big in Japan as they used to be, or in this case, selling a little slower in that region, I don't really find to be overly surprising. But at the same time, I do understand the criticism that the PlayStation 5 has gotten in that region. I would like to see them focus on Japan a little bit more with some first-party content like they used to with Sony Japan, with games like Gravity Rush, or, I mean, maybe bring back Legends of Dragoon. That would be pretty cool to see. But again, I'm not necessarily overly surprised. I think what I would like to see PlayStation really do this generation, though, is just to kind of match their success with the PlayStation 4 in that region. No, they're not going to catch the Nintendo Switch. That's not going to happen. But if they can match the success they had with the PlayStation 4, I think that would be pretty good for them. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, are you interested in the Witcher remake that was just announced? And as you can see here, 19% of you said yes, you will play through it again. 53% of you said yes, never played the original. 6% said no, played the original already. And then 18% of you said no, you're not interested in The Witcher. And I think that this is one of those premier examples on why a remake can be a good thing. 72% of you said yes, you are interested in this remake. And then only 25% of you said that you played that original game. And actually, a lot of you all in the comments said that even though you played the original, you never actually finished it. So the vast majority of you here haven't played this game despite The Witcher 3 being immensely popular. And I imagine that's really for two different reasons. One, comes down to availability. As to this day, the original Witcher game is exclusive to PC. And then also the original game didn't exactly age all that well despite the core being good. So because of those two things, it really seems like a lot of people just kind of started out with The Witcher 3. So now this game has an opportunity of fixing both of those issues, make it feel more modern, and make it more readily available for all platforms. And I think a lot of people that really enjoy The Witcher 3 will go back and play that original title. In fact, Call Me Psycho pointed something else out by saying, yes, actually, I wanted a remake or remaster of 1 and 2 so I could play the full series. And that's something else to kind of think about here. The Witcher 2, this was another situation where it wasn't exactly readily available either. It was on PC, of course, but then it only came to the Xbox 360 in terms of consoles. So that's actually maybe another remake or remaster candidate as well. Make these games all readily available on all platforms as we go forward, and this will catapult us into that next trilogy of The Witcher. It certainly would be nice to have all these games available on all platforms, and then also have them feel a little bit more modern on top of that. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.